Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the 2016 Twin Cities Film Fest, hosted by the Shops at West End and the beautiful Showplace Icon Theater. I'm your host, Doug Sidney. We have reached day 11 of 11. It is closing night of our 7th annual, and we are culminating in a very important way with a very important project that's a super important story that became a really amazing film. It's the documentary Free CC, and we're joined by the team behind it.
Hi.
Jack Grays, Cece McDonald, Laverne Cox. Garris, it is so wonderful to have you three here. And you have toured this film. You've brought it around to festivals, and you're getting audiences in front of it. What is it like to have the story here in Minneapolis, where the story took place, where Cece is from, bringing the film home?
It's incredibly special to be here in Minneapolis. I mean, we just had a Q&A where someone who was going to be on Cece's jury spoke about how meaningful it was for her to witness this film. So it's powerful. It's powerful being here, and we're just really, really happy that Twin Cities Film Festival brought us to have this platform.
It is such an honor to have all of you here. Cece, you didn't intend for this to happen to you. Suddenly, your life, your story, was being told in a very public way, first on the news with what happened with you, and then with a film crew wanting to come in and document your journey through what happened with you. What has that been like, having your life become so public?
Well, it's been about 3.5, 4 years since filming and working on this project with both Jack and Laverne. And I just want to first say that I love them both. I don't think that there would have been a better person to tell this story. And with Jack and Laverne putting their brilliant minds together, that we have the film that we have now. And I'm just grateful and blessed to be here and to share this with the people here in my hometown. And I don't know, it's amazing. I worked so hard to make sure that this film was brought here, so to have it at the Twin Cities Film Festival just kind of is the icing on the cake. And so I'm really honored and blessed to have my community and my friends and family here, and both Jack and Laverne. So yes, this is amazing.
You're so earnest in recognizing all of those other facets. Laverne, you have said that it is your hope, with your stature, your success, your celebrity, to spread love and support to your trans siblings. Is it that hope that brought you to be a part of this film?
Certainly. I say it in the film, and I've said it many times, that but for the grace of God, I could be Cece McDonald. And where Cece McDonald is today is light years away from when we met you, when you were still incarcerated for defending yourself. Black bodies are under attack in this country, and black trans bodies are under attack, and trans people are under attack in this country. And this film hopefully will be a window into some of those complicated intersectional issues, and hopefully will inspire people to act in their own lives and on a local, state, and national level. And I want to thank Jack and Cece for being so courageous and fearless in making this happen. And I want to thank all the folks who've supported this film through our Indiegogo campaigns, and everyone who's donated and made this happen. Just really grateful.
Yes, thank y'all.
Jack, as a filmmaker, how did you come to hear about this story that took place in 2011? You're LA-based. You're working throughout the country.
I'm actually New York-based.
New York-based. You've worked in Los Angeles and in New York. Yeah. How did you hear about Cece?
I heard about Cece. I was running a public television show, and initially Laverne was going to come in and help me produce a segment about Cece McDonald's story and the violence that affects trans women of color. So we developed it, to be like maybe a 15, 20-minute segment, and fortunately, that show went off the air, and all the work that we did, we just decided to take it up as a feature-length documentary. I felt like it needed more time, and it needed that platform. Cece's story was compelling. From the minute I met her, I knew I had to make this story. I was driven. I was compelled.
Laverne, you have been very transparent about your very humble beginnings, the criticism that you received, the prejudice that you endured, the non-acceptance. Cece, you've endured that as well. The two of you certainly forged a bond. I wanted to touch on an element that you brought up in the documentary, that PTSD is a very real thing for the transgender community. Can you comment on that?
Yes, I just feel like the conversation around mental health in trans, queer, and gender nonconforming communities haven't really been discussed. I've been dealing with PTSD all of my life from traumatic experiences that I've been facing as a child and growing up, but this one situation was something that kind of took a different toll on me, and I dealt with this in a different way than I did with other traumatic experiences. But it's definitely something that needs to be discussed, and is very important, because when we look at the state of mental health within trans, queer, and gender nonconforming communities, and look at the rate of suicides and suicide attempts, that it says a lot to what our society is doing about mental health in general, and how people within trans, queer, and gender nonconforming communities are affected by mental health. So it was something that I was dealing with, but we have to think about so many other trans, queer, and gender nonconforming people that deal with PTSD and other mental health instabilities, and how it needs to be a larger conversation.
And your story is an amazing first step. Laverne, you have been very modest in being labeled an icon, for not only with your success in your work as a transgender woman. Can you comment, and you mentioned before about how film can be an effective platform for raising awareness. Can you take the time with us here at our Film Fest to talk about the things that you feel are most important that people know about what's going on with the transgender community? What is most important for us to know?
Wow, that's that's really heavy. What really drew me to Cece's story, their intersectional issues, right? That the night of the incident that changed Cece's life, she heard racist slurs, she had heard anti-trans slurs, she heard anti-gay slurs, and she became involved in the criminal justice system as a victim and was criminalized in this very specific way that most black folks experience being criminalized by the criminal justice system. So there's a lot of these intersecting issues that affect particularly the lives of trans women of color have to do with racism, have to do with classism, homelessness. There is what we've seen over the past year with all of these anti-trans bills. There have been over 70 anti-trans bills introduced into state legislatures all over the country in the past year that basically try to criminalize trans people using the bathroom that is consistent with who they are. What we see in this is the perpetuation of the myth that trans women are not really women, that trans people are not who they say they are. And with that kind of mythology, that justifies us being people committing violence against us, but from police, from individuals in our communities, that justifies us people being criminalized and told they can't use, Gavin Grimm not being able to use the bathroom that is consistent with how he identifies, and that case is going to the Supreme Court. So we have to begin to understand that trans people are who we say we are, and that needs to affect how we treat trans people on an interpersonal level and how we make policies around trans people. And we also need to understand that Cece and I, as trans people, are also black people dealing with institutional racism and structural racism, and we have to begin to dismantle that. And that's, our country's built on racism. I just saw 13th and I'm like, it's so brilliant. Our country was literally built on the backs of slaves, so it's so deeply entrenched in this country on a systemic level. So we have to do a lot of work to dismantle those systems, but that is an important part of the equation as well.
Yes.
Thank you. Wow. Jack, you have told a very important story. Do the two of you plan on teaming up in a producing role, in a filmmaking role, to continue to use film as a platform to tell more stories like Cece's? Unfortunately, hers is not isolated.
You mean Laverne and I? If Laverne and I are going to team up, we've talked about doing We've talked about it. It's a possibility. We're open to it. I think there's a lot of stories to tell.
I don't want to be left out of it.
I know. We need
Cece McDonald, producer.
And of course, Cece.
I can't thank you three enough for being with us. With coverage of Free Cece, our culminating documentary here at the 2016 Twin Cities Film Fest, I'm your host, Doug Sidney, Jack Garris, Cece McDonald, Laverne Cox. Thank you again for joining us. We'll see you with more red carpet coverage here at the 2016 Twin Cities Film Fest.